Hey, what's up, APSOW? It's me, Awesome Alley, and I'm Raisa, and welcome back to another amazing Facebook Live. And we are back with our Youth Week featuring an upcoming rising motivational youth speaker named Sam Demma. So here we go, introducing Sam Demma. Hello, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm good, guys. Super happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. The energy is infectious, and I'm doing great.
Well, thank you for bringing that energy up. We're just going to jump right into it with our first question with who are you and what do you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So you've already introduced me, so I won't mention my name again. But I'm 20 years old. I'm a full-time speaker and youth mentor. I spend my time traveling around North America, sharing stories and experiences that I've been through, and the hope that I can help other young people realize that they can use their gifts and talents to make a difference in the world. I also run a podcast called the Small Consistent Actions Podcast. About 2,000 students tune in each month. And I post 5 YouTube videos a week. All the work that I do, in a nutshell, is related to helping youth create a vision for their life and just take it to the next level.
Wow. So you're really putting out the gold and the knowledge that you've obtained throughout your years to really share it out with the youth and inspire them.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you guys are doing that now too. So I think it's something that could be done at any age. And I'm glad. And I'm glad that I'm relatable to kids just like you are, or young people.
Wow. So thank you. How do you think that the relatability with a young person, how do you think with your relatability, how has it impacted youths that you've spoken to?
Yeah, so typically following a speaking engagement or, following an event, I'll have kids reach out and say, hey, the fact that you were only 20 years old was a huge difference, because typically we get people that come into our schools that are 30 or 40. And I'm actually really curious, whoever's tuning in right now, please drop your age in the comments section. I'm just curious to know what ages we have on here. But essentially, like, kids will come up to me and say, it was so different, it was so unique, you felt like an older brother. And I know for me personally, I'm more likely to listen to my sister or my brother. Maybe you guys fight, I don't know, but more easy to listen to my sister or brother than it is for me to listen to someone who's in their 40s or 50s. And so I think the messages just cut right through and get right to them when it's someone who's around the same age.
So how has that age difference impacted youth? I understand you said it's like having a big brother and a big sister. Have those youth come forward with their own personal stories? Is that how you touch them in a way?
Yeah, exactly. So after a presentation, either it's in person, and usually it's not, because like young kids are really shy. But I'll get a message on Instagram saying like, dude, like, you had such a big impact on me. Here's something I'm struggling with. And I'm not going to share personal stories on here, but I get sometimes some really serious stuff. And I'm lucky that I have a network of other young people that are interested in mental health or can actually help these young people. And I'm not a mental health specialist, but I can refer them to people that I know who can help them work through their issues and problems. But I think that because I'm young, they feel more comfortable telling me, whereas they might feel uncomfortable telling their guidance counselor or someone who's a lot older about the issues they're actually going through right now. So exactly, you hit it around the nail. They'll tell me their stories, they'll tell me their problems, they'll tell me their issues, and we try and direct them to the best possible source of help.
Nice. And how has that impacted you yourself? So they're telling you all these stories. How have you kind of inspired them in that way and just kind of kept yourself safe?
Yeah, that's a good point. So I remember there was a video by Gary Vee, and he was talking about YouTube, and he was like, I get thousands of comments on my videos nowadays, and there was points where I would get 1,000 positive comments and one negative one, and he's like, it would throw me right off. And kids don't say negative or positive things to me personally, like to attack me, but they share their positive and negative personal experiences. And it's almost like I take on their baggage. If someone tells you that they're thinking about committing suicide or like doing something like insane, or that they're going through a really tough time, it weighs down on your heart. It's a hard, and sometimes I'll have like hours of conversations with kids. And so I've learned that I need to remain stoic and like in the middle. I'm not gonna react to the positive stuff, like, oh my God, thank you so much. And I'm not gonna react to the negative stuff like, oh my God, this is insane. I'm just gonna stay in the middle, not react to either of them. Because if I feed the positive, it's gonna crush me on the negative. And if I feed the negative, it's gonna crush me on the positive. So I just try and remain stoic and then just think logically, okay, how can I help this person the best way I can? without taking it upon myself, because I can't help 10,000 kids. I can't help 1,000 kids personally after I do a speaking gig, and if they all message me that they have this huge problem, there's just not enough of me. But what's amazing is I can direct them somewhere else. So to answer your question, I just try and remain stoic, try and remain non-emotional to the positive or the negative experiences.
Wow. So that actually brought up something that I remember is an analogy that our mentor once used is you can't really help somebody who's drowning if you're not stable enough yourself, because if you're trying to help that person up, as you're trying to help them up, you might go and fall in with them. So that kind of goes along with your story, as when they tell you this, it's not necessarily that they're drowning, they're just trying to reach out for your help, but by you not being necessarily completely stable and showing the emotion, you're kind of pulling yourself in.
Yeah.
And speaking of that impact, do you find that you have a better impact by the stage, on YouTube, on the podcast? Which platform do you impact youth the most on?
Yeah, I think in person has always been the most impactful because you add in more of the senses. You know, it's like they can still see and hear me, but like they can't touch me online. And that sounds kind of funny, but it's like they can't shake my hand, give me a hug, give me a high five. And that kind of stuff makes a huge impact because we're all social beings. We want to see other people. It's not the same when it's through a phone. It's 2D, it's not 3D, it feels different. And the other big thing is that in person, I can look someone in their eyes. Now I can stare in the camera right now and it looks like I'm looking right at you, but it's not the same if you're in person and you're looking right at someone, singling them out in an audience of 500 people saying like, hey, I see you. You know, when you have 5 seconds of eye contact with a student that's like not really paying attention, all of a sudden they're like, oh my God, he sees me. He's listening. He's watching me, you know? So I would say wholeheartedly, like in person, 100%. I love the in-person stuff. Students love it a lot more. I get to talk to them after a speech. After a podcast, they don't get to talk to me. It's like the episode ends. Wait for the next one. I have a link where they can book calls, but a lot of students are shy, right? Same thing with YouTube. The video ends. Wait for the next one. There's no in-person conversation with Sam. So love the in-person stuff. Not opposed to the virtual stuff because we have to pivot and adjust and adapt. But yeah, I live for that. I live for all the in-person engagements.
Awesome. So we actually do have some of our viewers on. Make sure you are dropping some likes and hearts, and thank you for watching. So BB says, hi. Hi, BB. And Mary Long says, I see you.
Mary, that's kind of scary, Mary.
So Sam, going on stages, speaking, sharing your message, why is it important to you to get out there and really inspire youths?
Yeah, so here's the whole cliche quote that you probably heard 1,000 times, like today's youth are going to be tomorrow's leaders. You know, like everyone says it, but it's actually true, right? Like it is true. All the people that are young today are growing up to take over the world, essentially, right? APSOW, you guys know what it is. Like you live and breathe this stuff. You're going to be the awesome people shaping our world in the next, 10, 15 years. So it's like, why not set them off on the right track? Why not give them the tools and strategies they need right now? So 10 years from now, they're rocking this thing. Like they're solving all the problems that we didn't solve. I'm a part of you guys. I'm still young, but our parents, the problems that our parents and the older generation didn't solve. And I also just wholeheartedly believe that if you can have a positive impact on someone, you should. Like every time you provide value or give back to the world, it all comes back to you as well. So it's like the more you can help others, the more of an impact you can make, and you're also going to live a good life yourself. It's all about providing value. So yeah, and personally, if I reflect back on my own experience when I was going through high school, I had really difficult times, and I wish there was people like you guys that came into my school, or people like myself or other youth speakers that came to my school and shared an inspirational message with me, because there was times when I know I could have used it, but I didn't get it. And so the lack of having that in my experience kind of prompts me to do it myself.
Wow. So there's something that you mentioned there, like you wish that you had somebody like Grace and I, or even yourself or other young speakers to come into your school and inspire them. So that actually brought up a story. Is I was attending a kind of meeting with all the other district school boards and student councils, and Sam happened to be one of the speakers there, and he did amazing. Like everybody loved him. He was fantastic. But the funny part was, is as I was looking around the room, like being a fellow speaker and just kind of reading the room myself, and the way you interacted with other people was amazing. You really made them feel like as if you were talking to them, even though you were talking to the whole audience. And it was just fun to see the reaction of the people around my table when they saw you up there and they're like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. And like people are just crushing on you and stuff. It was so funny. But then at the end, when you're singing me out, it's like, oh, Ali, yeah, do something. And we did it. And everyone was just like, Ali, you know him? Go talk to him. Let's try to get him to my school. So if you're watching this, Sam, what are you saying? When this is all over, you mind coming over to my school and giving a speech?
Yeah, bro, I'm super down. Connect me with the principal. Put in a good word. Let's make it happen. I'm in. That's so funny.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So how did you get started? Okay, sorry. let me get back. How did you get into speaking?
Yeah, it's a good question. So my whole life I wanted to be a pro soccer player. I went to Italy when I was 13 for 6 months to pursue that dream. Came back, trained my whole high school experience. At the age of 17 in grade 12, had 2 knee injuries, actually 3 injuries, 2 surgeries, lost a full ride scholarship to a school in the US, went down a terrible path, had a teacher named Michael Loudfoot. He taught me a lesson that if you take a small, consistent action, it can make a massive global change. I was doing some things I shouldn't be doing at that point in time after I stopped playing sports, went down a terrible path, and it was that lesson that kind of pivoted me to try and take this theory and put it to the test. So I would walk home from school every day. As a small action, I started picking up garbage to see if my teacher was correct. And I did it for about 4 months until my buddy Dylan saw. He's like, Sam, this is awesome. Let's do something with this. We started a community initiative called Pick Waste, because I live in Pickering and we pick up trash. Right? It's like, it makes sense. Pretty clever, right? And we started doing 1 hour weekly cleanups every Saturday morning, did it for the whole summer. And we gained a lot of momentum in the first 2 months, so we never stopped. Now we've been doing it for 2 years. We filled 1,400 bags, done over 140 cleanups, got featured all over national news. That's what got us invited to do TEDx talks. And then through that, our principal invited us to speak at a Thanksgiving assembly for 5 minutes. And we went in and I did a 5-minute speech. It sucked. It was terrible. I was spitting all over the mic. I was like Eminem. I started choking. You can actually watch the video. It's on my YouTube. It's kind of funny if anyone wants to see it. And after that, he's like, hey, if you want to recruit more volunteers, Latifa, thank you. It's like, if you want to recruit more volunteers, go to more schools and I'll introduce you to the principal. I was like, perfect. So he started introducing me to all these principals. I was doing free presentations, did about 40 presentations before a principal gave me $150 honorarium after I finished. And he was like, kid, you did an excellent job. When you provide value to the world, people are going to reward you for it. And he's like, you deserve this. And I was like, what the heck? Like, people do this for a living. I absolutely love this. I'm almost the same age as these kids. I have a story I want to spread. Let me do this. And so I called up every youth speaker I could find, asked them questions, flew to California, flew to Vancouver, spent about $15,000 after dropping out of university, and just went full force into it. And March 2019, I opened a business. And now the rest is history. I just started calling schools, selling presentations, going in, delivering, connecting with students, and just rinsing and repeating that process. But that's how I got started.
Wow. And I love how you said connections with students. So as you keep going to all these schools and you're connecting with all these students, what is the one thing that surprises you the most about these students and these youth?
Yeah, they have such big visions and goals. I remember when I was in high school, and I think even my parents, like, the goal back then was like, get out of school and get a stable job. Nowadays, I go into school, do a presentation, kids come up to me like, I want to impact billions of people, and here's how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start this tech startup and build this and this and this. And I'm like, let's go, like, let's go. I'm a super app. Let's do this, right? I think that surprises me a lot. That's probably the main thing. I think it's just the kids' passion and ambition is so much bigger than it used to be when our parents were in school, and it's just amazing and refreshing to see that.
Wow. Yeah, I would agree with you. I feel like today, because they can see that anybody can just come up from anything, right? Like, you could have a horrible life, but then with one little click, an idea comes and then they implement it, and they see from being absolutely the same person to sticking out and completely being like a billionaire or even a multimillionaire from doing one little thing. So I feel they see the opportunities now, which I find is amazing. So kind of going along the theme that my sister said is, what's something that you notice? what's a common theme that you notice among them besides just having a big vision?
Yeah. A lot of kids are not falling in the bucket of a formal route of education anymore. I think this is something that I've talked to a lot of students about, and maybe you guys can relate a little bit. But I've talked to a lot of young people, and when they tell me they want to do something, they'll ask me like, "What should I get into?" And a lot of times I'm like, I don't know if there's a course for that. I don't know if you can go to university to learn how to do that. I think you just have to start doing it. And I think that's a common trend. A lot of students want to start their own things. Some of them want to game and play, Warzone and stream it on Twitch and make money as a YouTuber, or do all these very, very interesting and probable things that don't really fall under the branch or blanket of going through a formal education route. So I think that's another big habit, or I guess collective trait that I've observed talking to all these young people. And I think what comes along with that is like courage. A lot of kids have the courage to try and go for it and make it happen and do live streams like this. So congrats, you guys are literally leading the way.
Thank you. Thank you. So our next question is, do you have a mentor? And if so, how has that mentor helped you?
Yeah, so I have mentors. I'll add S to it. I have a lot of people that help me in many different ways. I think mentorship is one of the best ways to learn something, and it's also a lost art. Like, it's not really thought about as a way to learn as much as it should be. It's probably one of the most effective ways to learn something, but rarely is it talked about. Rarely is it talked about when you're going through high school that you should go and get a mentor. And maybe like they put you with another student, and that's really helpful and effective. But there's also so many people outside of the school that could be so valuable to what you want to learn and do, that I would encourage people to like jump out. Mary, totally agree with you. Not discounting the formal education at all. Just depends 100% on what you want to be doing with your life. Like, there's a lot of things that I highly recommend you go to school for. My personal experience, totally different than most kids. Never bash education, never will. Just the decision I made. But again, yeah, mentorship, huge. Like, think Karate Kid, think Star Wars. Think all these movies where the person comes in, takes a very informal route, and just has a master of something. Just teach them. I know how impactful mentorship has been for you. It can shorten. It's not a quick fix, but it can shorten the learning curve by like thousands of minutes, thousands of hours. So mentors in my life, one of them is named Cody Schuin, one of the first mentors I had. He's a member of CAPS, the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers. He's been doing this for a decade now. He's taught me a lot about speaking. One of my other mentors, Alvin Brown, owns a holistic gym, teaches me a lot about the body and health. I have another mentor named Chris Cummins, another speaking coach / mentor, teaches me a lot about the business of speaking. I think a mentor in its essence is someone who always has time for you when you want to pick up the phone, ask a question, have a phone call. And to say how it's impacted me would be extremely difficult. I'm a totally different person now than I would have been if I didn't meet like half of these people. So I have mentors, and they made a huge impact on my life in so many different ways.
What is the best way to find a mentor in your opinion?
Take the first step towards your own journey. So I talk about this often. A mentor doesn't just appear in your life, right? If you think back to the movies, even like the Karate Kid, right? Like Mr. Miyagi didn't just like go find, I don't know his name right now, but he didn't just go find his student and was like, yo, come, I'm going to teach you how to do karate. It was like, no, the kid got fed up that he got beat up, and he like went looking for somebody. He kept bugging him. He's like, yo, teach me, knocking on his door. He's like, teach me. The guy like throws him a broomstick. He's like, go sweep the streets. He's like, what do you mean go sweep the streets? And he was willing to go seek out the person. So the first thing I would say is like, take the first step, because the mentor will come when they see potential in you, or when they see that you're making an insurmountable amount of effort towards whatever it is you're trying to learn. So it's like, if I want to learn how to be a youth speaker, I'm going to call all these people. I'm going to start booking speeches. I'm going to suck on stage. But I'm going to be like, hey, look, man, I'm doing this. I called this school. I went here. I had a call with this guy named Steven Sills, who's the founder of the Student Life Network, a big student network in Canada. And I brought him an idea, which was the graduation video that I just filmed. It's a grad video for all the students of 2020 who are missing their graduation. It's on my Instagram. It has about 23,000 views right now. You can check it out right there. And it's just Sam_Demma. I might be blocking it with my hair a little bit. And he was like, Sam, I love this idea. is the video already done? And I was like, yup. And I literally pulled up my laptop, showed him the video, and he was like, this is amazing. You know what I hate? When people bring me in ideas that have no action in them. And it's so true. It's like, if you want to, learn something, do something, build something, take the first 5 steps, then show the mentor what you've already done, and they can comment on that, right? They don't want to walk you through an entire process almost all the time. Sometimes they'll have to, but they don't always want to do that, right? They want to see you taking initiative, and then they'll find you if they see potential.
You actually brought up, or sorry, Ali.
Go ahead. No.
Thank you. You brought up a really good point there about finding potential, and mentors will find potential in you, but how do you find potential in yourself?
It's a great question. Through action. I think the only way to like build confidence or find potential in yourself is to take action. I've sucked. Thank you, Becky. I have sucked so many times. I have started things I absolutely suck at. And the only way I've gotten better is by doing them over and over again. And I think something that's not talked about enough is the power of consistent actions. And it's the second half of what my teacher taught me about small, consistent actions. It's like, say you want to lose weight. Let's just use a fitness example. And I'm like, I have no potential in myself because I'm, 50 pounds overweight. I look bad. I feel bad. And you get all down on yourself. And the right thing to do is to go to the gym and work out and eat healthy meals. But the crazy part is if that's the right thing to do, but you only do it for 1 day or 1 week or 2 months, you're not going to see a huge change. Only when you take that action, even while it sucks, for 6 to 12 months, are you going to start to lose weight, feel better, and have a better opinion of yourself. And so I think potential and your self-esteem are kind of tied together, because what you believe is what you can achieve. It's like Think and Grow Rich. And if you don't believe that you're good enough, you don't believe you look good enough, you don't believe you can make the sale, it's never really going to happen. And so take the action thousands of times consistently over a long period of time, and you're gonna start to see a lot more potential in what's possible. And just to cap it off, I'll say the reason that you'll see more potential is because results will start to show. If you stay consistent, if I call 20 principals every day to book speeches, someday someone's gonna say yes, and all you need is one yes. Because when someone says yes, it validates your whole opinion. Yes, someone wanted to buy this. Yes, someone wanted to watch the live stream. Yes, someone wanted to buy the book. It's like, okay, it's real. It's possible. Let's keep going. Now it's just a numbers game. So yeah, I think that's the best way to find potential. Just go for it and do more of it.
Wow, you are super inspirational. I just have to applaud you. Much respect to you.
Thanks.
And comments also are loving you. So Mary Long said, definitely, mentors are invaluable. Don't reinvent the wheel. Learn from the mistakes of others. Work together as a team. Let them prepare you. Don't do it all yourself. I want to say something about that as well, because when you are taking the time to do small, consistent actions, you are preparing yourself for that yes. So you might have 100 no's, but that one yes. So all those 100 no's is that one yes. It is that preparation. I know a lot of
compounding
exactly.
Success.
Get rich quick schemes and getting famous really quickly can fall like in one night. So you might get there, but if you don't have the foundation to fall back on, you're starting from scratch.
And something that you said was like you did not thousands, but maybe hundreds of speeches, or maybe tens, like 40s, 50s.
Dozens.
Dozens of speeches that you may have bombed. So what's a takeaway from that you've learned? Like when you bombed the speech, what did you do after that?
So I have a journal that I use after every presentation to write down what did I think went really well, what would I change for next time. And every single time I do a speech, I go back to this journal right when I finish. If I cracked a new joke that was amazing, I add it to what I'll change for next time. I'm going to add this in always. If I do something that was terrible, I'll write down, I'm not going to do this again. Or how can I change this? And so after doing that, like 150, probably like 150, 160 gigs so far, after writing those notes after 160 presentations, the speech is getting so good to the point where like now it's so referable. So I would say it doesn't only apply to speeches, but it applies to soccer games. In fact, it applies to any failure in life. I know I was telling you earlier, I recently dropped this new course called the High Performing Student. One of the modules is how to learn from failure. And I take students through a 3-step process. It's the process that I use. It's actually the same process that brought that course to life. And here's what it is. You ask yourself after a failure, there's no such thing as a failure in my opinion, but it's the word that everyone has accepted. So we'll just go with that. After a failure, you ask yourself, okay, what did I want to happen? And here's the example I'll give you speaking. I wanted to speak in hundreds of schools this year. What actually happened? Coronavirus. All my gigs got canceled, right? It was like absolute craziness. Everything got canceled. The third question you have to ask yourself is, what can I learn from this situation? What new skills do I have to develop? What new abilities do I have to learn so that if this ever happens again in the future, I don't get the same result? And so I sat myself down after this happened, pulled out a piece of paper, and I was like, okay, what's the new skill I need to learn? And it came down to building an online course and serving students in a way that didn't force me to go speak right in front of them. And what came out of it? The high performing student. So I would say, Ali, anyone who's doing something and the result is not what they want can simply ask themselves those 3 questions, or make a simple T-chart on a piece of paper and then say what went well, what didn't go well, and then underneath the didn't go well section, decide how you're going to change that, fix that for the next time you do it.
You mentioned something really good, and you said failure doesn't exist in your opinion. Why is that?
Because there's no such thing as a failure. Failure to me is like you accepted the loss. You accepted the fact that you lost. I think if you learn something from a situation, it's not a failure. It's actually necessary for you to change your behavior in the future. Like, for example, there was one time when I was way too salesy with a client, and the client was like, Sam, this is not coming off as very genuine, as very authentic. And I was like, oh my goodness, I lost a sale. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is terrible. This is bad. And then I asked myself, okay, what can I do next time so it doesn't happen again? And I'm so glad that I failed with her, because if I didn't fail with her and she didn't tell me, I didn't change my behavior, I might have done it another 50 times. And it's like, it would have had a huge negative impact on my career, on what I'm doing in my life. So if I can learn from a situation that didn't go as I wanted it to go, it's not a failure, it's a success. I'm just about to change something that's going to make me 10 times more effective in the future. So why would I call it a failure? It's a learning experience. I don't want to look at anything like it's the end, or the end of a failure is the end. You have to accept that. I'm not ready to accept that as my reality. I don't think anyone else should as well. So, yeah.
So if you accept the loss and you don't change your behavior, then it's a failure. But if you accept the loss and change your behavior, it becomes a success.
And a learning experience, and the next step on your journey to growing. It's like, how can you have success without failure? I don't think anyone just goes and on their first shot, hits the jackpot. It's like, no, every single person is going to fail multiple times. You can't be great without being bad. You can't be successful without failing, because a failure teaches you what you have to change. And again, like, there's no one on this planet who's going to, start a live stream. The first time they do it, get 1 million people to show up, right? But along the way, you learn new things. You fail, you iterate, you keep going, you fail, you iterate. Every great entrepreneur failed multiple times. In fact, every great person who's doing anything in their life failed their way to greatness, in my opinion. So you have to fail. You have to love failure. You don't have to love it, but you have to learn from it. So, yeah.
I love what you said, like how you speak very passionately about failure, because I'm going to assume that you've experienced it so much that it's got you to this point. And there's a quote, I can't remember who it's by right now, but it was everything ends up being okay in the end. So if something's not okay, it means it's not the end. Keep going. So I really think that quote really applies to what you've been saying here. So if once you experience a failure, it's never the end unless you decide it. You decide to say this is the end here.
Yeah.
So it provides a learning curve and it creates a success.
Ralph Waldo Emerson said that there's no such thing as good or bad. It's just what meaning you give to it. And it's the same thing about success or failure. Technically, there's no such thing as success or failure. What's a success? It depends on the person who obtains it, how they define it. Is success getting $100,000? Is success getting $1 billion? Is success marrying a certain type of man or woman or partner? Is success getting into a certain school? Like, for some people, a certain success might be a failure. Like, it's all dependent on what you want and how you define it. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well, because it's so true. It's so true.
No, I think you just gave away a golden nugget in that little piece there.
Cool.
That was fantastic.
At the end of the day, it's all about the perspective you put on different definitions. And one of our mentors was telling us that it's very important that you create a philosophy for your own life. So you might not want to agree with something, or how you said there's no success, there's no failures. That's you creating your own philosophy to life. And when you do that, you form your own perspective. You form your own blueprint in the way you want to live your life. So I think that was really good. So our next question, because we were kind of running out of time, so we're going to kind of pass by. Anissa just quickly says, that sounds like Race and Ali, always working hard and keeping at their goals, even when the end result isn't apparent right away. Consistency and hard work. Thank you so much.
Keys.
The next question is, what events have you recently spoken at?
Yeah, I spoke yesterday at the Global Student Leadership Summit. That one was an awesome one. Before COVID, I spoke in Alberta on behalf of Remax Elite. I spoke to all the realtors and then did 5 local schools. That was really awesome because it was my first time in Edmonton. I'm trying to think. I also did a virtual gig for the Student Life Network. I did one of those, and then I did a virtual gig for General Assembly, which is a tech company in Toronto. Those are probably the most recent gigs that I've done. And then every Thursday I have phone calls with young people. I wouldn't consider that a speaking event, but it's a little kind of event. So yeah, that's pretty much the most recent stuff that I've been up to.
Wow. And what are some of the topics that you've spoken on?
Yeah, so the main takeaways from my presentation are all related to creating a vision for your life and then making it a reality, and then also using your gifts and talents to make a difference in the world. So I encourage students to, create a philosophy, create a vision, set the standards for what you will accept in your life and what you won't accept, decide what you want, build a plan for it, break that plan down into goals, which act as milestones, break the goals down into daily actions, and then start executing. So it's all, and then wrapped around the whole thing is like social impact. So have this whole thing, but then also consider the fact that you can also make a difference in a positive way in other people's lives. Because I wholeheartedly believe like profit without purpose or impact is like, it's not a good motive. Like money can be a motivator. There's nothing wrong with it, but also make sure you're having a positive impact on others. So that's pretty much what the whole presentation is all about. It's about 60 minutes, and it changes every time I deliver it, because I'll ask the principal like, hey, what is your school struggling with right now? How can I use my program to solve problems that you're actually facing? Because one of the problems about sales is that if we only consider what we have to offer, but not what the other person needs, half the time we're trying to sell something that they don't even want. So I'll be like, here's what my presentation basically teaches, but how can I include whatever you really need in your school right now? And that's probably the best advice I'd give to anyone trying to sell anything. Listen to your customer, right? Listen to your customer. They're the person who's buying the product. It doesn't matter what you have to sell. If you figure out what they need, that's what's most important.
Wow. Very nice. So I have one little fun question for you, and it is, what is the most extreme thing you've done to practice your speeches? And I'll give you an example. For yesterday, Daniel G., big salesperson in Canada, he did a live stream, and he was saying for the first year of his speaking experience, he spoke to a wall. Not the stuffed animals, not the mirror, not the family, just to a wall for 1 year practicing. So what is the most extreme thing you've done?
So I trumped Daniel if he's watching this, just so he knows. The first 5 months, I used to practice in my shower with a G-Shock watch. And I say G-Shock watch because it's waterproof. I'll literally stand in the shower. I found it very therapeutic space. And I was at it, whenever you're in the shower, people say your most important thoughts come to you, because you're so calm. You're just thinking, you're standing under the hot water, you're chilling. I wasted a lot of water, so I'm sorry. It's really bad in terms of that aspect. It's terrible of me. But I would literally practice my speech in the shower. And my parents would come downstairs and be like, "What the heck are you doing in there? It's been 30 minutes. Get out, I did it for a couple months. I stopped. I don't do that anymore, but I'd say that's probably the most extreme thing that I've done. And it's kind of funny too. But it worked. So, hey.
But thank you.
Sorry. What do you say after that?
Don't judge me. Don't judge me. That's what you say after that.
That's what he says. He says he doesn't do it, but who knows? Not joking.
So, Ali, you want to say our next question?
Yeah, I would actually. So, you've been speaking at a lot of schools and going everywhere. You're just on the rise, which is amazing. So, what do you think okay, I'll say, what do you think people find unique about you compared to other speakers?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is my age, being young, because it makes me really relatable to young people, but it also makes me really inspiring. I'm sure you guys know, with adults. So you go stand up in a room, Raisa, and you do a poem in front of Brian Tracy's conference, right? And or Bob Proctor, and like you get up on stage, do your thing, and all these adults, boom, standing ovation because you're so young, and they're like, damn, this girl is so young, she's crushing it. So for me, I can relate to students the same way you guys can, and relate to them because I'm going through the same things they are. But then, like both of you, again, I can become really inspiring to an adult audience. So I think age has a big thing to do with it, and then also the amount of work that I put into the presentation. A lot of people do speaking part time and then have a whole other business that they operate. This is my full time gig, so I'm taking this work as the most important thing that I'm doing. So I'm pouring my heart into it every single time I speak. I'm passionate. I'm sweating every time I speak. And I'm not nervous when I talk anymore. Maybe a little bit in a good way. Because the moment you stop being nervous entirely is the day that like you should probably stop doing the thing. Because you don't really care about the result at that point. But I'm just like, I'm so passionate about it. And so I approach it from that heartfelt place, and I think it really shows. So I think those are the two main things.
Yes, awesome. Wow, this was a great Facebook Live. Thank you so much. Our last question for you is, what's going on in your life? How can we contact you? And do you have anything to offer to our audience for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned it earlier, but I just released a program called the High Performing Student. It teaches young people vision creation, goal setting, how to break it down, how to plan the week, essentially everything they need to lay a foundation towards obtaining a certain goal or dream in the future. And a lot of it has come from things that my mentors taught me when I was your age and growing up. So it's pretty cool that I've put something together, and there's about 25 kids in it so far from 6 different countries. And they're in a private Facebook group, all interacting with each other, which is awesome. That along with this graduation video I just made. So this is the offer I have for your audience. I'm doing a Instagram giveaway. So I'm giving away this PS Vita with the God of War 1 game. This is valued at $350. You go onto my Instagram at Sam_Demma, which is again right up here. It's kind of hard to see. SAM_DEMMA. If you comment 3 friends on the graduation video, tag me and share it on your story, you get entered for a chance to win this. It has about 23,000 views right now. I'm trying to get it in front of as many graduates as I can to bring them hope and joy. And if anyone wants to get in touch, very simply message me on Instagram or send me an email at sam@samdemma.com. That's pretty much it.
Wow. So do you have a last message or anything you'd like to give up, like a last golden nugget or piece of advice you'd like to give to our audience on top of that?
Yeah, just take the first step. I think everyone wants to do certain things, but they get so in their head about what it's going to look like, what other people are going to think, how it's going to work, every single thing that needs to happen in terms of making it a reality. And when you think so much, you get paralyzed. And even like, when you go to driving school, your driving instructor will tell you, don't think. The moment you decide to change lanes and you see it's safe, change the lane. Don't hesitate halfway through the lane, because you know what's going to happen. You're going to start thinking halfway through, and then the car's going to hit you and you're going to die. So it's like, as morbid as that sounds, it's the same about your success in life. Don't think so much when you're just trying to start. Just take the first damn step, and then you can figure out how it's all going to work out. But take the first step, because it's that thinking that's paralyzing you. So yeah, take the first step. Don't think, just do it.
Wow. So this was presented by APSOW. Awesome people.
Shaping our world.
Remember, you are awesome.
And you can make the world a better place. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.